This family had a wedding celebration that lasted for 7 days. So, of course, they felt the financial strain. But that was only a small portion of the strain that was getting ready to happen as they were discovering that they had run out of wine at the wedding. You see, running out of food or running out of wine at a wedding would not only bring financial stress, but it also brought great shame to the couple for a very long time. See, a wedding was supposed to be the best party of all. And if the host failed to provide adequate hospitality, it would bring great dishonor to that family. Running out of food or drink would have been a huge embarrassment. And in the closely knit communities of Jesus' day, it's not like this would have been forgotten in a week or in a year or something like that. This shame and this embarrassment would have followed this couple for the rest of their lives. Think about it in our kind of context. You ever been hosting like a party or been hosting a dinner over at your house and you had a lot of people show up and then all of a sudden you're kind of questioning, do I have enough food? Is this going to last? So you're kind of watching, okay, you only get one piece of chicken, you don't get two. You're tapping somebody on the shoulder, hey, I need you to run to the store and get some more drinks because we're running out. We're out of ice, we're out of food, we're out of drink. This is not good. And we feel a little bit of the pressure, the frustration, maybe even a little bit of the embarrassment that goes along with that. But for this couple, imagine that it was their wedding day. It was their son's wedding day. It was their daughter's wedding day. And so the embarrassment and the shame for them went to a whole new level. But the embarrassment and the shame wasn't the end of it as well. See, during this time period, it was possible to take legal action in certain circumstances against a man who had failed to provide the appropriate wedding gift. In other words, that groom and his family may well have been financially liable and could have been sued or could have been had to have some kind of financial obligation to be able to pay back as well. There was a financial punishment that would have been put in place during this time period if you failed to provide adequately the food and the drink in a wedding. They were running out of wine. They were facing embarrassment, humiliation, shame, and punishment. What was supposed to be the happiest day of their life was now quickly turning into a nightmare. Ever been there? Life was going good. Life was going okay. Things were going like they were supposed to, and then all of a sudden, it turned into a nightmare. We were faced with a crisis, faced with a problem that kept us up at night, faced with a situation that seemed to be the only thing that we could focus on, faced with a situation that seemed to rob us of our joy. It seemed to be able to rob us of the ability to be able to enjoy anything else that life had to offer. That's what was facing this couple. So what do we do? What do we do when we faced with one of those situations, with one of those problems, with one of those crises, with one of those nightmarish situations that happen in life? I believe that Scripture through this story actually gives us a blueprint that we can follow, some things that we can hold on to during those times that we're faced with those rocky moments, with those rocky times. They're running out of wine, and Scripture says that Mary comes to tell Jesus. We have the hindsight of being able to look back and know who Jesus is and know everything that he's done. And so the fact that Mary goes to Jesus doesn't seem like that big of a deal. But think about it in this context, in the moment when this was actually taking shape. Mary went to Jesus, but what did she really expect him to do? Maybe she had seen him do something like this before, but Scripture says that this is the first recorded miracle that we have of Jesus. So what did she expect him to do? Did she expect him to perform a miracle? Did she expect him to just say, hey, I'll run down to the store and see what I can find. I'll go knock on a neighbor's door and we'll see how much more we can find. What exactly is she expecting Jesus to actually do here? I don't know if she knew what he would do. I don't know if she knew what he could do, but I know that she knew the one that she was going to. She didn't know what he would do, but she knew who he was. You see, years earlier when she was pregnant, the angel had visited her and told her that she was going to give birth to the Messiah. She may not have known what he would do, but she knew the one that she was going to see. Whenever we're faced with a need in our lives, the first thing that we need to do is to go to the one that we know. Now, I know what you're thinking, right? Because I was thinking the same thing. Well, that seems simple. That's not what I came to hear today. I came to hear something new. I know that when I'm faced with a problem, I need to go to Jesus with it, right? But why is this so difficult for us? Why is it so difficult for the fact that we take our problems to Jesus? Why is it so difficult for that to be the first thing that we do rather than the last thing that we do? Because we treat it like this, right? Well, I've tried everything else. I guess the only thing I have left to do is to pray about it. I know I can't count the number of times I said, well, the only thing I can do now is pray. We usually view taking the problem to God as a last resort, and we treat prayer like a last resort. We'll struggle alone with our problems, or we may consult a couple of people, but we take this approach that I've got to fix it. That, a crisis happens, the nightmare happens, and the first thing I got to do is, okay, how can I fix the problem? How can I jump in there and take care of things? How can I jump in there and mend the fences? How can I jump in there and bring a solution to the problem that I'm facing? We've come to the conclusion that unless we can fix it ourselves, then we are completely helpless. I'm going to say something to us today that I know that I need to hear at times, and probably you need to hear as well. Since when did it become your job to fix everything? You're trying to carry the weight of all the problems and trying to fix it all yourself. You're not qualified for that job. You're not strong enough for that job. You're not wise enough for that job. That is a false responsibility that you have placed on yourself. That it's your role to fix it all. That was not a role that God put on you. The role that God put on you, the role that God put on me, is that when we are faced with the problem, that we go to Him with it. That we let Him carry the burden. That we let Him direct our steps. That we come and we place the situation down at His feet. Mary went to the one that she knew. She presented the problem to Jesus. But then verse 4 happens, and that's where the crazy begins. Verse 4, "Dear woman, that's not our problem," Jesus replied. "My time has not yet come." Oh, no, He didn't. Jesus say, what? You ever been in a public place, maybe like a grocery store, and you were walking down the aisle, and then you heard some little, 8, 9, 10-year-old, 11-year-old kid get an attitude with her mom and her dad, get a little smart mouth, and you just kind of like to yourself muttered under your breath, get him right now. It's kind of like one of those moments I want to pull up a chair. I'm going to sit down, I'm going to get my popcorn ready. I'm going to just sit back and watch. You're going to get him right now. It's going to be good. You ever have one of those moments right there, you're just kind of watching it happen? I kind of feel like this is one of those moments that should happen in Scripture. It's like, okay, you know what? Mary's going to get him right now. Mary's going to put him in his place. How dare he talk to his mama like that? Woman? Who are you calling woman, little man? I mean, it's like, I'm going to jerk you up by your ears right now, Did Jesus really talk back to his mama? The answer is no. You see, woman was not a demeaning term as we might take it today. Now, make sure I put this in place. I am not suggesting that you go to your mom today and you say, "Hey, woman, happy Mother's Day." All right? That is not going to go over well for you. I'm just going to go on. Don't you dare bring my name into it because I will deny. All right? You did not learn that here today. But using the term woman during this time period was not offensive. It was actually a part of their everyday conversation. It was not taken as being harsh, and Jesus' mom would not have taken it as being harsh. It's actually the same phrase, "dear woman," that would be used later on in the Gospel of John when Jesus is hanging from the cross, and he looks down at his feet, and he sees his mom there, and he sees John there, and he says, "Dear woman, behold your son." So it wasn't a demeaning term. It wasn't a phrase that was going to be offensive. It was actually just a part of their everyday language. But he does, in this phrase and in this statement, remind her of something that I think oftentimes we need to be reminded of as well in this next statement. When he sits there and he goes, whenever we're faced with a need in our lives, we go to the one that we know, but we need to be prepared. His answer may not be what we want to hear. Jesus tells her, "Dear woman, that's not our problem. My time has not yet come." That's certainly not the response that Mary was hoping for in this moment in time. She had presented Jesus with a problem, and she wanted him to fix it. Sounds familiar? How many times have I presented Jesus with a problem and like, "All right, I need you to fix it." But he doesn't fix it the way that I want him to, or his response to me is not at all what I wanted. He didn't make the cops pull over that person who just cut me off in traffic. He didn't help me get out of my last speeding ticket. He didn't give me that promotion. He didn't give me the news that I wanted to hear. He didn't open up the right door. He didn't do whatever. And chances are for you and for I, we've been at a place in our lives where we presented a situation, we presented a problem to Jesus, and he didn't respond the way that we wanted him to. I hate telling my kids no. That's not something that I enjoy. When they come to me with stuff, man, I would love to be able to say yes to everything. It'd make life a whole lot simpler, at least in that moment. But when I have to tell them no, oftentimes they might get upset because I don't give them their way or I don't give them something that they want. And the reason that they get upset most of the time is because they don't understand the full picture of what's going on. I have found that in my life as well, that one of the reasons that I get upset when Jesus doesn't give me the answer that I want is because I'm not seeing life and I'm not seeing the situation in the full picture of the way that he sees it. And see, that's what's happening with Mary here. She needs to be able to see the full picture. For many years, Mary had raised Jesus as her son, right? This was the son of Mary. But now Jesus is needing her to see him as more than that. When he says this, he is reminding her that he's not just the son of Mary, but he's the son of God. The day before, Nathanael had looked at him and said, "You are the Son of God." He's beginning his public ministry, a journey that's going to take him going to end at the cross. And as the Son of God, he only does what the Father says to do. In John chapter 5, verse 19, it says, "I tell you the truth, the Son can do nothing by himself. He does only what he sees the Father doing. Whatever the Father does, the Son also does." Mary can't just see Jesus as her son anymore. She must see him in the same way that Nathanael saw him. She must see him not only as her son, but as God's son as well. Jesus' point would seem to be that he and his mother are not on the same page. Mary had to step into this moment to begin to see him differently. And I think sometimes you and I, we have to start seeing Jesus differently as well. You see, when we go to the one that we know, we must begin to see him completely. When I'm faced with those nightmare situations, when I'm faced with those crisis moments in our lives, I am tempted to be able to look at Jesus as who I need him to be rather than who he is. I am tempted to look at Jesus and say, "Look, I need you to step into this situation right now, and I need you to be provider. I need you to step..."